I stood in my white lace dress, holding a bouquet of peonies that suddenly felt too heavy in my hands, staring at the text message that would destroy everything I thought I knew about love, family, and trust. The message wasn't meant for me. It was from my stepsister Vanessa to someone saved in her phone as V. But I recognized the number. It was Michael's. My Michael. The man I was supposed to marry in less than 4 hours. "I can't do this anymore," the text read. "She's getting ready right now. I'm 3 months along, and I'm showing. When are you going to tell her about us? About the baby?" My maid of honor, Cassidy, found me sitting on the floor of the bridal suite at the Riverside Manor. My veil crumpled beside me, mascara running down my face in silent rivers. I wasn't crying hysterically. That's the strange thing about true betrayal. It doesn't always make you scream. Sometimes it just makes you very, very quiet. "Grace?" Cassidy's voice sounded like it was coming from underwater. "Honey, what happened? You look like you've seen a ghost." I handed her the phone without saying a word. Vanessa had left it on the bathroom counter when she went downstairs to check on the flower arrangements. Such a small mistake. Such a catastrophic mistake. I watched Cassidy's face change as she read the messages. Not just that one, but the others I'd scrolled through in the 15 minutes since I'd picked up that phone. Months of messages, sweet words, plans for a future that didn't include me, photos I couldn't bear to look at twice. "Oh my God," Cassidy whispered. "Grace, this can't be real." But it was real. The evidence was right there in tiny blue and gray bubbles on a screen. Evidence of late-night conversations while I slept beside Michael, trusting him completely. Evidence of secret meetings at hotels I'd never been to. Evidence of a pregnancy, a baby that should have been mine and Michael's someday, after we were married, after we'd traveled like we planned, after we'd built the life we'd dreamed about. "What are you going to do?" Cassidy asked, kneeling beside me on the plush carpet. I looked up at her, and I realized something in that moment. I wasn't the same woman who had woken up that morning with butterflies in her stomach and joy in her heart. That version of Grace had died somewhere between "I'm 3 months along" and "When are you going to tell her?" "I'm going to get married," I said quietly. Cassidy's eyes went wide. "What? Grace, you can't possibly—" "No," I interrupted, my voice steadier than I expected. "I'm going to walk down that aisle. I'm going to let everyone gather. And then I'm going to make sure the truth comes out exactly the way it should, in front of everyone who matters. To understand how my wedding day became a funeral for my innocence, you have to understand how carefully the foundation was built and how perfectly it was destroyed." I met Michael Hayes in the autumn of 2019 at a coffee shop in downtown Portland. I was 26, working as a pediatric nurse at St. Vincent's Hospital and running on 4 hours of sleep after a double shift. He was there with his laptop, supposedly writing a novel, but mostly, as he later admitted, people watching and drinking too much caffeine. I spilled my latte. Not on him. That would be too much like a romantic comedy. I spilled it on myself, and I said a word that isn't appropriate for a family channel. Michael looked up, caught my eye, and started laughing. Not at me, but with this genuine warmth that made me laugh too, despite the hot coffee seeping through my scrubs. "Rough day?" he asked. "Rough year," I replied. He bought me another latte. We talked for 2 hours. I missed my yoga class and didn't care at all. Michael was everything I thought I wanted. Patient, thoughtful. He remembered small details, like how I took my coffee with oat milk and 1 pump of vanilla, or that I collected vintage bookmarks, or that I called my mom every Sunday morning without fail. He worked in marketing for a sustainable furniture company, and he was good at his job, good with people. Everyone liked Michael. When he proposed in May of 2022 at the Japanese garden, where we'd had our first official date, I didn't hesitate. I said yes before he finished asking the question. The ring was simple, a sapphire surrounded by tiny diamonds, because I'd mentioned once that I preferred colored stones to traditional diamonds. He'd remembered. He always remembered. My mother cried happy tears. My father, who wasn't usually emotional, hugged Michael and said, "Welcome to the family, son." Even my normally skeptical brother Tyler approved, and Tyler never approved of anyone I dated. The wedding was planned for September, late enough to avoid the summer heat, but early enough to catch the golden autumn light. We chose Riverside Manor because it sat on a bluff overlooking the Willamette River, and because their gardens were full of the dahlias Michael's late grandmother had loved. Everything was perfect. And then there was Vanessa. My stepsister came into my life when I was 19, and she was 17. My father married her mother, Patricia, after my own mother passed away from ovarian cancer when I was 16. Those 3 years between losing Mom and gaining Patricia and Vanessa were the darkest of my life. Dad was drowning in grief. Tyler was angry at the world, and I was trying to hold everyone together while barely holding myself together. Patricia was kind. She never tried to replace our mother, and I respected her for that. She brought stability back to our house. She cooked meals. She made sure the bills were paid on time. She sat with Dad when he stared at old photo albums and cried. Vanessa was complicated. She was beautiful in that effortless way some women are. Long dark hair, green eyes, the kind of bone structure that photographs well. She was also charming when she wanted to be. But there was something else beneath the surface, something I couldn't quite name. A calculation in the way she observed people, a quickness to find and press on insecurities. When we first became stepsisters, she was sweet to me. We shared clothes, stayed up late talking about boys and dreams in the future. She called me sis and linked her arm through mine at family dinners. Dad and Patricia were so happy to see us bonding. It felt real. But Tyler saw through it first. "She's always watching you," he told me one night when Vanessa was 21 and had moved into an apartment downtown. "She studies you like you're a specimen under a microscope." "It's weird, Grace." "You're being paranoid," I'd said. "She's family." "Family doesn't look at you the way she looks at you," Tyler replied. "Like she's trying to figure out what you have that she wants." I dismissed it. Tyler had trust issues, and Vanessa had been nothing but supportive, especially when I started dating Michael. She loved Michael. That should have been my first warning. When I introduced them at a family barbecue in June of 2020, Vanessa lit up in a way I'd rarely seen. She laughed at all his jokes. She asked him thoughtful questions about his work, his hobbies, his family. She insisted we all take photos together. "Your fiancé is amazing," she told me later, helping me carry dishes into the kitchen. "You're so lucky, Grace. Seriously, he's like the total package." "I know," I'd said, smiling. "I really am lucky." "Does he have any single friends?" she'd asked with a wink. I'd laughed. "I'll ask him." Michael did try to set Vanessa up with his friend Aaron, who was nice enough, but, according to Vanessa, not her type. She dated sporadically, or at least, that's what she told us. A lawyer named something or other who didn't work out. A guy from her gym who turned out to be married. A brief thing with someone from her work at the marketing agency where she'd recently gotten a job. That should have been my second warning. Vanessa working in marketing. The same field as Michael. But Portland is full of marketing agencies. It didn't seem strange at the time. She was at every wedding planning session, every cake tasting, every venue walkthrough, every decision about flowers and music and seating arrangements. Patricia would come, and Vanessa would tag along, offering opinions that were usually helpful and always enthusiastic. "You should go with the peonies," she'd say. "They're so romantic." "The string quartet is perfect," she'd tell us. Michael's grandmother would have loved it. "Grace, you have to get that dress," she'd insisted when I tried on the lace gown that now hung in the bridal suite, waiting to be worn for a wedding that would never happen. "You look like a princess. Michael's going to cry when he sees you." I trusted her. I trusted both of them. Michael started, working longer hours in the months leading up to the wedding. "Big project," he'd explain, kissing my forehead as he grabbed his laptop and headed out for another late night at the office. "I want to get this finished before the honeymoon so I can focus on you for 2 whole weeks." We were supposed to go to Italy, Rome, Florence, the Amalfi Coast. Michael had it all planned. Vanessa started canceling plans. Girls' nights that had been our tradition became rare. "I'm swamped with work," she'd text. Or, "Dealing with some personal stuff? Rain check?" I'd worry about her, send her care packages, leave voice messages checking in. "You're such a good sister," Patricia told me once. "Vanessa's lucky to have you." 3 months before the wedding, Vanessa stopped drinking alcohol at family dinners. "Detox cleanse," she explained when Dad asked. "Trying to feel healthier." Tyler caught my eye across the table. He didn't say anything, but his expression spoke volumes. 2 months before the wedding, I came home early from a shift at the hospital and found Michael on the phone in our bedroom, speaking in a low voice I'd never heard him use before. "I know," he was saying. "I know, baby. Soon, I promise. Just give me a little more time." He hung up quickly when he saw me. "Just my mom," he said with an easy smile. "She's stressed about the wedding. You know how she gets." I did know. His mother was lovely but high-strung. It made sense. Everything made sense until it didn't. Until the morning of my wedding day, when I picked up Vanessa's phone from the bathroom counter and saw my entire life rearrange itself into a different picture. Looking back now, the signs were everywhere. But that's the thing about betrayal. You can't see the pattern until you know what you're looking for. And when you love people, really love them, you explain away the inconsistencies. You give them the benefit of every doubt. The first real clue came in July, 3 months before the wedding. I'd taken Vanessa out for lunch at this little French bistro on 23rd Avenue because she'd been distant and I missed our sister time. She'd lost weight. I noticed it immediately. Her face was drawn, and there were circles under her eyes, despite the makeup she'd carefully applied. "Are you okay?" I asked, reaching across the table to touch her hand. "You've seemed off lately. Is everything all right?" She pulled her hand back, playing with her water glass. "I'm fine, just work stuff. You know how it is." "Is it a guy?" I pressed gently. "You can tell me. I won't judge." Something flickered across her face. Guilt? Fear? It was gone before I could name it. "It's complicated," she finally said. "I'm seeing someone, but it's not. We can't be public yet. He's in a situation." My heart sank. "Vanessa, please tell me he's not married." "No," she said quickly. "No, nothing like that. It's just complicated with work and timing and—" She stopped, tears suddenly brimming in her eyes. "I really care about him, Grace. More than I've ever cared about anyone. But I don't know if it's going anywhere, and it's killing me." I felt terrible for her. I moved to her side of the booth and hugged her while she cried into my shoulder. "Whatever happens," I told her, "you deserve someone who chooses you, who's proud to be with you. Don't settle for complicated. You're worth more than that." She nodded against my shoulder. You're so good, Grace. You've always been so good. The way she said it didn't sound like a compliment. A week after that lunch, I borrowed Michael's laptop to print a document for work. Mine was updating, and I needed the file urgently. His computer was password protected, but I knew the password. It was the date we got engaged. When I opened his browser, it was still on his email tab. I wasn't snooping. I swear I wasn't. But his inbox was right there, and the preview of the most recent email caught my eye because the subject line read, "We need to talk about what happens after." The sender was listed as V. I told myself it was work-related, maybe a colleague named Victor or Vincent or Virginia. I printed my document, closed the laptop, and pushed the unease down deep, but it stayed there, small and persistent, like a pebble in your shoe. In August, exactly 1 month before the wedding, I volunteered to pick up Vanessa's bridesmaid dress from the alterations shop because she was stuck in a meeting. The dress was perfect, a dusty rose color that complemented her skin tone beautifully. The woman at the shop, Mrs. Chen, smiled as she carefully packed the dress in its garment bag. "Your sister is so lucky to have you," she said. "When's her baby due?" I froze. "I'm sorry, what?" Mrs. Chen's smile faltered. Oh, I thought when she was here for the fitting, she mentioned she was expecting. I assumed you knew." "No," I said slowly. "She's not. There must be some mistake." "Maybe I misheard," Mrs. Chen said quickly, clearly uncomfortable. "These old ears, you know." But I saw the truth in her face. She hadn't misheard. I called Vanessa from my car, my hands shaking on the steering wheel. "Hey, sis," she answered, bright and cheerful. "Did you get the dress?" "Vanessa, Mrs. Chen said you mentioned being pregnant. What was she talking about?" Silence. Long enough that I checked to see if the call had dropped. "She must have confused me with someone else," Vanessa finally said. "I was in there with another customer. Maybe she overheard their conversation." "Are you sure?" "Grace, I'm not pregnant. I promise. If I was, you'd be the first person I'd tell." She laughed, but it sounded forced. "Can you imagine? Me, a mom? I can barely keep a plant alive." I wanted to believe her. So I did. But that pebble in my shoe was becoming a stone. 2 weeks before the wedding, Michael came home smelling like perfume that wasn't mine. A sweet, musky scent I didn't recognize. "Long meeting with the clients," he explained, seeing my expression. "One of them, Sarah, is a close talker, and apparently she bathes in perfume." "Sarah?" I asked. "The account manager for the Greenwood project," he said smoothly. "You've heard me mention her." I hadn't, but I nodded anyway. That night, while Michael slept beside me, I did something I'd never done before. I went through his phone. My hands were trembling as I typed in his passcode, my birthday. The phone unlocked. I checked his messages, his calls, his photos, his apps. Everything looked normal. Work conversations, texts with his friends about the bachelor party, photos from our engagement shoot. Nothing suspicious. I felt ashamed of myself for looking. I put the phone back on his nightstand and lay awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering why I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. 1 week before the wedding, Vanessa showed up at our apartment unexpectedly. Michael was home, working from his desk in the corner of our living room. I was folding laundry on the couch. "I need to talk to you both," Vanessa said. Her face was serious, her usual spark dimmed. "What's wrong?" I asked immediately, abandoning the laundry. She looked between Michael and me, and I swear I saw something pass between them. A look I couldn't quite read. "I'm thinking about moving," she said finally. "Maybe to California. There's a job opportunity in San Francisco." "What?" I stood up. "Vanessa, that's so sudden." When did this happen? It's been in the works for a while, she said. I need a change, a fresh start. Michael stood up too. But what about the wedding? He asked. His voice was tight. Your Grace's maid of honor. I'll be here for the wedding, Vanessa said quickly. I wouldn't miss it. But after that, I think I need to go. Something about the way she said it felt final. Like she wasn't just talking about moving cities. I hugged her. I support you, I said. Whatever you need to be happy. Over her shoulder, I saw Michael's face. He looked stricken. At the time, I thought he was sad to lose Vanessa's friendship. She'd become part of our extended circle, someone we saw regularly at family dinners and weekend barbecues. Now I understand. He was calculating how much harder it would be to maintain their affair with her in California. The night before my wedding, we had the rehearsal dinner at an Italian restaurant downtown. 25 people who loved us, laughing and toasting and celebrating the life Michael and I were about to begin. Vanessa sat at the opposite end of the table from us. She barely touched her food. She didn't drink, and when it was time for the maid of honor toast, she stood up with her sparkling water and said, Grace is the best person I know. She's kind and loyal and trusting, and whoever gets to spend their life with her is the luckiest person in the world. To Grace and Michael, may your marriage be built on honesty and love. Everyone clinked their glasses. Everyone except Vanessa, who sat down quickly and wouldn't meet my eyes. Later, as the party was winding down, I found her in the bathroom, crying. Vanessa, what's wrong? I asked, closing the door behind me for privacy. Nothing, she said, wiping her eyes fiercely. I'm just emotional. Happy tears, you know? But they weren't happy tears. I could tell the difference. Is this about the guy? I asked softly. The complicated one? She nodded, not trusting herself to speak. Did it end badly? It hasn't ended yet, she whispered, but it will. Tomorrow, it will. I put my arms around her and she cried harder, her whole body shaking. I'm so sorry, I said. You deserve better. You deserve someone who chooses you. You're such a good person, she sobbed. Too good. I stayed with her until she stopped crying. I fixed her makeup. I told her everything would be okay. And then I went home with Michael, the man I was going to marry the next day, and I fell asleep in his arms, trusting completely that tomorrow would be the happiest day of my life. I was wrong. The wedding day started the way every bride dreams it will start. I woke up in the guest suite at Riverside Manor. Michael and I had decided to spend the night before apart, keeping the old tradition for luck. The morning light was golden and perfect, filtering through gauze curtains. My mom's closest friend, Susan, had left a tray outside my door with coffee and fresh croissants, and a note that said, Today you marry the love of your life. Your mother would be so proud. I ate breakfast on the balcony, looking out at the river, watching the light change on the water. I felt peaceful, grateful, ready. Cassidy arrived at 9 with my hairstylist Madison and makeup artist Priya. The bridal suite became a hive of gentle activity. Music playing softly, champagne being poured, laughter echoing off the walls. You're glowing, Madison said as she curled sections of my hair. She's in love, Priya replied, applying the first layer of foundation to my skin. Nothing makes a woman more beautiful than that. Patricia arrived with Vanessa at 10:30. My stepmother had tears in her eyes when she saw me, and she pressed a gift box into my hands. Your father wanted you to have this, she said. Inside was my mother's pearl necklace, the one she'd worn on her own wedding day. Dad had saved it all these years for this moment. My hands shook as I put it on. Thank you, I whispered. Vanessa was quiet. She'd barely said good morning. She sat in the corner of the suite, scrolling through her phone, separated from the energy of preparation happening around her. "Vanessa, are you feeling all right?" I asked. "You seem off." She looked up, and I saw it again, that calculation in her eyes quickly masked. "I'm fine," she said, "just thinking about everything." "The move?" I asked. "Are you having second thoughts?" "Something like that," she murmured. Then she stood up. "I need to use the bathroom," she announced and disappeared. That's when it happened. That's when the domino fell that toppled everything. Vanessa's phone buzzed on the chair where she'd left it. Once. Twice. 3 times in rapid succession. The screen lit up with message previews, and from where I was standing, having my hair pinned, I could see them. The first message: "We need to figure this out before she walks down that aisle." The second: "I can't keep pretending." The third: "I love you. You know that. But this is killing me." The messages were from a contact saved as Yavi, but it showed a partial preview of the actual phone number underneath. I knew that phone number. It was Michael's. Time did something strange. It slowed down and sped up simultaneously. Madison was still pinning my hair, talking about how romantic the ceremony was going to be. Priya was opening another palette of eyeshadow. Cassidy was steaming my dress. Patricia was crying happy tears in the corner, and I was dying inside. I waited until Madison stepped away to grab more bobby pins. Then I moved quickly to the chair and picked up Vanessa's phone. My hands weren't shaking anymore. They were steady, almost unnaturally steady. I swiped up, and the phone unlocked. No passcode required. She'd been so comfortable here, so confident in her deception, that she hadn't bothered to secure her device. The messages opened. Hundreds of them. Months of them. I scrolled up to the beginning, to where it all started. April 3rd, 3 weeks after Michael proposed to me. Michael: "I can't stop thinking about you." Vanessa: "We can't do this." Michael: "I know, but I am." Vanessa: "She's my sister, this is wrong." Michael: "I love her, but I'm in love with you." I kept scrolling, my vision tunneling, the sounds of the bridal suite fading into white noise. May 12th. "I need to see you tonight." June 2nd. "Tell her you have plans. Come to the apartment on Oak Street, the one we talked about." July 8th. "Did you take the test?" July 9th. "It's positive." July 9th. "I don't know what to do." July 9th. "We'll figure it out. Together." August 4th. "She can never know about the baby." August 16th. "After the wedding, we'll tell her everything. We'll do it right." September 1st. "I'm scared." September 2nd. "Me too, but I love you. I love our baby." The words blurred. Every message was a knife, and I was being cut to pieces. There were photos, too. I couldn't look at most of them, but I saw enough. Enough to understand that this wasn't just an affair. It was a relationship, a real one, with dinners and inside jokes and plans for a future. A future with my fiancé. A future with their baby. I found the ultrasound photo saved in their private album. 10 weeks. The date stamp was from July. Vanessa was 3 months pregnant, with Michael's child. And today? Right now, in less than 4 hours, I was supposed to marry him. "Grace." Cassidy's voice broke through. "Honey, you look pale. Do you need water?" I looked up. Everyone was staring at me. Madison with concern, Priya with confusion, Patricia with motherly worry. I held up the phone. "Where did Vanessa go?" I asked. My voice didn't sound like mine. "She said she was checking on the flowers," Patricia replied. "Grace, what's wrong?" "Cassidy," I said, still holding the phone. "Can you come here, please?" She crossed the room quickly, and I handed her the phone without a word. I watched her face as she read, watched the horror dawn, watched her hand fly to her mouth. "Oh my God," she breathed. "Grace, how did you— What is it?" Patricia asked, moving toward us. "What's happening?" I looked at my stepmother. This woman who had been kind to me, who had tried to blend our families with love and patience, and I had to tell her that her daughter had been sleeping with my fiancé. "Patricia," I said carefully, "I need to show you something." When Patricia finished reading the messages on Vanessa's phone, she sat down very slowly on the pale blue sofa, still holding the device in her shaking hands. Her face had gone white, and for a moment I thought she might faint. "This can't be real," she whispered. "My daughter wouldn't— she couldn't." But we both knew it was real. The evidence was irrefutable. Months of messages, photos, an ultrasound, a secret apartment, plans for after the wedding, after they'd both successfully deceived everyone who loved them. Madison and Priya, sensing the shift in the room, quietly excused themselves. "We'll wait outside," Madison said softly. "Take your time." It was just the three of us now, Patricia, Cassidy, and me. My hair was half finished, my makeup only partially done. I was wearing a silk robe over my underwear, my wedding dress hanging like a ghost in the corner of the room. "What are you going to do?" Patricia asked, her voice breaking. "Grace, I am so sorry. I had no idea. You have to believe me." "I know you didn't," I said, and I meant it. Patricia had loved Michael like a son. She'd welcomed him into our family with open arms. This betrayal wounded her too. Cassidy was pacing, her hands clenched into fists. "We need to call this off, right now, before one more person arrives, before one more dollar gets spent. Grace, you cannot marry that man." "I'm not going to marry him," I said calmly. "Good," Cassidy replied. "I'll go find the coordinator but I'm not canceling the wedding either." Both women stared at me. "What do you mean?" Patricia asked. I stood up and walked to the window, looking down at the gardens where white chairs were arranged in perfect rows, where an altar was draped in fabric and flowers, where guests would soon gather to watch me make the biggest mistake of my life. Except I wasn't going to make that mistake. "Everyone is coming," I said quietly. "Michael's family, Dad and Tyler, our friends, colleagues. 150 people who took time out of their lives to celebrate with us. And Michael and Vanessa were planning to stand up there, play their parts, smile for the cameras, and continue their lies." "Grace," Cassidy started. "No," I interrupted, turning to face them. "They don't get to control this narrative. They don't get to decide when and how the truth comes out. I do." Understanding dawned on Patricia's face. "You want to expose them." "I want everyone to see who they really are," I corrected. "I want them to have to face what they've done. Not in private, where they can spin it or manipulate it or make excuses. But in public, in front of everyone." Cassidy sat down hard on the arm of the sofa. Grace, are you sure? This could get ugly." "It's already ugly," I replied. "They made it ugly. I'm just refusing to help them hide it anymore." "What's your plan?" Patricia asked. She'd stopped crying. Her voice was steady now, tinged with something that might have been approval. "I'm going to walk down that aisle," I said. "Michael will be waiting at the altar, thinking everything went according to plan. Vanessa will be standing there as my maid of honor, wearing that dusty rose dress, pretending to be happy for me. And when the minister asks if anyone has reason why we shouldn't be married—" "You're going to object to your own wedding," Cassidy finished. "I'm going to tell the truth," I said. "I'm going to show everyone the messages, the photos, the ultrasound, And then I'm going to walk away from both of them with my dignity intact. Patricia stood up. I'm so sorry, Grace, for everything, for my daughter, for not seeing. She couldn't finish. I crossed the room and hugged her. This isn't your fault. You're not responsible for her choices. We stood like that for a moment, two women bound by betrayal and grief. I need to find Vanessa, Patricia finally said. I don't even know what I need to say to her, but I need to see her face. Not yet, I said firmly. If you confront her now, she'll warn Michael. They'll both run, and we'll never get the closure we deserve. Patricia, can you wait? Can you pretend you don't know? Just for a few more hours? She closed her eyes and nodded. For you, I can do that. She left the room, carrying her daughter's phone with her, the evidence safely in her custody. Cassidy looked at me with a mixture of admiration and concern. You're either incredibly brave or incredibly reckless. I haven't decided which. Maybe both, I admitted. We heard footsteps in the hallway, and then Vanessa appeared in the doorway, her arms full of adjustments to the centerpieces. The florist was worried the dahlias weren't opening enough, she announced, seemingly oblivious to the tension in the room. But I told her they're perfect. You wanted them tight, remember? More elegant that way. I looked at my stepsister. This woman who had shared my home, my secrets, my family, and I saw her with new eyes. Every kind word had been a lie. Every sisterly gesture had been a manipulation. Every piece of wedding planning advice had been a sick joke. She was carrying Michael's baby while helping me plan our wedding. Thank you, I said, keeping my voice even. I appreciate you handling that. Vanessa smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. That's what sisters do, right? Take care of each other. Right, I echoed. Take care of each other. If she heard the edge in my voice, she didn't show it. Should we finish getting you ready? Vanessa asked. It's almost 11 and photos start at 1. Actually, I said, I need a minute alone to center myself. Pre-wedding meditation, you know? Oh, Vanessa said, looking uncertain. Sure, of course. We'll be right outside if you need anything. After she left, Cassidy locked the door. How can you stand to look at her? She asked. Training, I replied. I'm a nurse. I've learned to keep a calm face even when I'm watching something terrible happen. Even when I can't stop it. Even when I'm watching someone die. Is that what this feels like? Cassidy asked softly. Like something dying. No, I said. It feels like something dead finally being buried. We spent the next hour getting me ready. Cassidy called Madison and Priya back in, and they finished my hair and makeup without asking questions. They could sense something had shifted, but they were professionals. They made me beautiful. When I put on my dress, I didn't feel like a bride. I felt like a warrior putting on armor. The dress fit perfectly. The lace sleeves, the sweetheart neckline, the long train. I'd felt like a princess when I first tried it on. Now I felt like a queen about to enter battle. Cassidy fastened my mother's pearls around my neck. She would be proud of you, she said. Not for getting married, for standing up for yourself. At 12:30, my father knocked on the door. Grace? His voice was full of emotion. Can I come in? I opened the door, and the look on his face when he saw me made me want to cry. Pure love, pure pride, pure joy. He didn't know yet what was about to happen. None of them knew except Cassidy and Patricia. You look just like your mother did on our wedding day, Dad said, his voice thick. Absolutely beautiful. I hugged him tight. I love you, Dad. I love you too, sweetheart. Are you ready? I'm ready, I said, and I was. Ready to end this lie. Ready to reclaim my truth. ready to walk down that aisle and detonate the bomb that Michael and Vanessa had planted in my life. At 1 o'clock, guests began arriving. I watched from the window as they filed into their seats, admiring the gardens, commenting on the perfect weather. Michael's parents, my colleagues from the hospital, friends from college, cousins I hadn't seen in years. They were all so happy, so unsuspecting. At 1:45, the groomsmen took their places at the altar. Michael stood in the center in his dark gray suit, looking nervous but excited. His best man, Jonathan, clapped him on the shoulder and said something that made Michael laugh. At 1:50, the bridesmaids began their procession. Cassidy went first, her face carefully neutral. Then Michael's sister, Laura. Then his cousin, Jen. And then Vanessa. She walked down the aisle in her dusty rose dress, her dark hair swept up, her hand resting subtly on her still flat stomach. She smiled at the guests. She looked beautiful and serene and completely at ease. She took her place at the altar, right beside where I would stand. Right beside the man she'd been sleeping with for 5 months, the man who'd gotten her pregnant, the man who was about to marry me. The music changed. The wedding march began. My father offered me his arm. "Ready?" he asked again. "Ready," I said, and together we stepped out of the bridal suite and walked toward the gardens, toward the altar, toward the moment when everything would change forever. The guests stood as we appeared. I heard gasps, murmurs of approval. Someone started crying, probably Michael's mother. I walked slowly, carefully, my eyes fixed on the altar ahead. On Michael, who looked like he might actually cry when he saw me. On Vanessa, whose smile faltered for just a second when our eyes met. Did she know? Did she sense something was wrong? It didn't matter. It was too late to stop what was coming. We reached the altar. Dad kissed my cheek and placed my hand in Michael's, then stepped back to sit beside Patricia, who looked like she might shatter into pieces. Michael squeezed my hand. "You're stunning," he whispered. I didn't respond. The minister, Reverend Thomas, smiled at us warmly. He was an old family friend, someone who'd known me since childhood. "Dearly beloved," he began, "we are gathered here today to witness the union of Grace and Michael in holy matrimony. Marriage is a sacred bond built on trust, fidelity, and honest love." Each word was a knife. Trust, fidelity, honest love. "Before we continue," Reverend Thomas said, following the traditional script, "if any person here knows of any reason why these two should not be joined in marriage, let them speak now or forever hold their peace." This was the moment. This was where I was supposed to say nothing, where we were all supposed to smile and continue. Instead, I let go of Michael's hand. "I do," I said clearly. "I have a reason." The garden went silent. Completely, utterly silent. Michael's face drained of color. "Grace, what are you—" "I can't marry you," I said, my voice carrying across the stunned crowd. "Because you've been having an affair with my stepsister for the past 5 months, and she's pregnant with your baby." Someone screamed. Multiple someones. The sound of chairs scraping, people gasping, a man saying, "Oh my God, over and over." I turned to look at the guests. "I'm sorry you all came here for a wedding that isn't going to happen, but I thought you should know the truth about the man I almost married and the woman I thought was my sister." Michael grabbed my arm. "Grace, wait, let me explain." I pulled away from him. "Explain what? Explain the messages, the photos, the secret apartment, the ultrasound from July?" I pulled out my phone. I'd had Cassidy download screenshots of everything from Vanessa's device. "Should I read some of your texts to her? Would you like me to share them with your mother? With my father?" Vanessa was crying. Not quiet tears. Loud, gasping sobs. "Grace, please," she begged. "Please don't do this. Let's talk privately. Let's—" "No," I said. "You wanted to stand up here and play maid of honor at my wedding while carrying his baby. You wanted to smile and toast to our happiness while planning your life with my fiancé. This is what you wanted, to be part of my special day. So here we are." Patricia stood up from her seat. "Vanessa, is it true?" Vanessa couldn't answer. She just kept crying. Michael tried one more time. "Grace, I love you. I do. I made a mistake, but—" "You made hundreds of mistakes," I interrupted. "Every time you texted her, every time you met her, every time you touched her, every time you came home to me and pretended nothing was wrong. Those weren't mistakes, Michael. They were choices." I took off my engagement ring, that beautiful sapphire surrounded by diamonds, and placed it on the altar. "I choose myself," I said. "I choose honesty. I choose dignity. And I choose to walk away from both of you." I looked out at the crowd. My father had his face in his hands. Tyler looked murderous. Michael's mother was being held back by his father. Friends and family were crying, arguing, trying to process what had just happened. "There's food and cake inside," I said, somehow maintaining composure. "Please, stay and enjoy it. Don't let their lies ruin your afternoon completely. But I won't be joining you. I have a life to rebuild." I gathered my dress train, turned around, and walked back down the aisle alone. Cassidy caught up with me halfway to the manor. She took my arm, and together we walked away from the wreckage of my almost wedding. Behind us, I heard Michael calling my name. I heard Vanessa sobbing. I heard the crowd erupting into chaos. But I didn't look back. Not once. The media called it the wedding that broke the internet. Someone had filmed my speech at the altar on their phone. Within hours, it was everywhere. Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, Reddit. Millions of views, thousands of comments, think pieces about betrayal, female empowerment, and the courage to walk away. I became the bride who exposed her cheating fiancé. A symbol, a meme, a cautionary tale, and an inspiration depending on who was telling the story. But I was just Grace. Heartbroken, humiliated, and trying to figure out how to survive what came next. The first 72 hours after the wedding were a blur. I stayed with Cassidy and her husband Derek, unable to face the apartment I'd shared with Michael. Dad and Tyler wanted me to come home, but I needed space from everyone except my best friend. Patricia called 15 times the first day. I finally answered on the 16th. "Grace," she said, her voice wrecked. "I am so sorry. I've been trying to reach Vanessa, but she won't answer. She left the venue right after you did. I don't know where she went." "I don't care where she went," I said honestly. "I understand. But I need you to know. I had no idea. If I had suspected even for a second, I would have stopped it. She's my daughter, and I love her. But what she did to you is unforgivable." "Patricia," I said carefully, "you and Dad are married, you're family, and I don't blame you for what Vanessa did, but I need time, from all of it, from everyone." "I understand," she said, crying now. "Take all the time you need. But Grace, thank you for not letting them get away with it. Thank you for being stronger than I could have been." After she hung up, Cassidy brought me tea and sat beside me on the couch. "The hospital called," she said gently. "They're giving you 2 weeks leave with full pay. They said to take care of yourself and come back when you're ready." I nodded numbly. The idea of going back to work, of seeing patients and colleagues who'd probably watched the video, felt impossible. "What am I supposed to do now?" I asked. I had a life plan: marriage, kids, the house in the suburbs with the garden, growing old together. Well, it's all gone. "So you make a new plan," Cassidy said. "One that doesn't include people who betrayed you?" "I don't know how to make a new plan." "Then don't make one yet. Just survive. One day at a time, 1 hour at a time if you need to." That's what I did. I survived. Day 4, Michael showed up at Cassidy's door. I watched from the window as she blocked him from entering, her finger jabbing at his chest as she told him exactly what she thought of him. He left, looking defeated, his shoulders slumped, nothing like the confident man I'd fallen in love with. Day 7, I went back to the apartment to get my things while Michael was at work. Dad and Tyler came with me. Tyler moved like a caged animal, rage radiating off him in waves. "Just say the word," he told me as we packed boxes. "One word, and I'll make him regret he was ever born." "Violence won't change anything," I said. "It'll make me feel better," Tyler muttered. But we got my things without incident. I left my keys on the kitchen counter, along with a note that said simply, "Have the lawyer contact my lawyer. Don't contact me directly again." Day 14, the gossip columns got hold of new information. "Affair baby due in spring," one headline read. "Cheating groom and stepsister set up love nest while planning wedding," read another. I stopped reading after that. Day 21, I met with a therapist named Dr. Nina Chen, who specialized in trauma and betrayal. "You're grieving," she told me. "Not just the loss of Michael, but the loss of who you thought he was. The loss of the future you'd planned. The loss of the trust you had in your own judgment." "I should have seen it," I said. "The signs were there." "People in love trust," Dr. Chen replied. "That's not a weakness. That's what makes you human. They exploited your trust. That's their failure, not yours." It took me weeks to begin believing that. Day 30, I returned to work. My colleagues were kind, but curious, walking the line between compassion and voyeurism. The head nurse, Margaret, pulled me aside. "You're stronger than all of us," she said. "Coming back here, after what happened, takes courage." "Or stupidity," I replied. "No," she said firmly. "Courage. You faced the worst thing that could happen and you're still standing. That's not stupidity." The work helped. Caring for sick children gave me perspective. My problems were real and painful, but these kids were fighting for their lives. Their parents were terrified. I had a purpose beyond my own heartbreak. Day 45, Vanessa tried to reach out. She sent a letter to my dad's house, knowing I'd eventually see it. Tyler wanted to burn it unopened, but I needed to read it. Needed to understand if there was any explanation that could make sense of what she'd done. The letter was 10 pages long, handwritten on cream-colored stationery. "Dear Grace," it began, "I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't even expect you to read this. But I need you to understand how it happened." She went on to explain how she'd met Michael at a coffee shop months before I introduced them at the family barbecue, how they'd felt an immediate connection, but she'd never acted on it because she thought she'd never see him again, how shocked she was when I brought him to meet the family, how she tried to stay away but couldn't. "I fell in love with him," she wrote, "and I know that doesn't excuse anything. I know I should have stayed away. I should have told you. I should have been honest, but I was weak and selfish, and I convinced myself that what you didn't know couldn't hurt you." The letter talked about the pregnancy, how it wasn't planned, how Michael had wanted her to terminate but she couldn't go through with it, how they'd decided to wait until after the wedding to tell me the truth, to let me have one last happy moment before destroying my life. I never wanted to hurt you, she wrote. You were always so good to me, so kind, so trusting. And I betrayed all of it. I betrayed you. I destroyed our family. I know you'll never speak to me again, and I deserve that. But I needed you to know that I'm sorry. So, so sorry. The letter ended with, I hope someday you can heal from what I did to you. You deserve every happiness, Grace. You always did. I read it 3 times. Then I folded it carefully and put it in a drawer. I didn't respond. Day 60, Michael sent his own letter. Shorter, more desperate. I made the worst mistake of my life, he wrote. I love you, Grace. I've always loved you. What happened with Vanessa was a weakness, a moment of insanity that spiraled out of control. I want to make it right. I want to earn back your trust. Please give me a chance to explain, to fix this, to show you that I can be the man you thought I was. I tore that letter up and threw it in the trash. Day 90. I learned that Michael and Vanessa had moved to California together. San Francisco, just like she'd mentioned before the wedding. They were having the baby, building a life. The life they'd planned while lying to me every single day. Good riddance, Tyler said when I told him. Let them have each other. Let them live with what they did. But part of me wondered if they would live with it, or if they'd rewrite the story in their minds, make themselves the heroes who fell in love despite the circumstances. If eventually they'd forget the pain they caused and just remember the romance of their forbidden relationship. People are good at that, rewriting their own narratives. Day 120, I took down all the wedding photos from social media. Not the video of my speech, that wasn't mine to control anymore, but the engagement photos, the bridal shower pictures, the rehearsal dinner memories. I deleted every photo of Michael from my phone, every text message, every reminder of what I'd thought we had. It felt like erasing a ghost. Day 150, I went on my first date. A colleague from the hospital, a pediatric surgeon named Aaron, asked me to dinner. I said yes, even though I wasn't ready, because Dr. Chen said sometimes you have to act before you feel ready. Aaron was kind, interesting, easy to talk to, but when he walked me to my door and tried to kiss me goodnight, I flinched. I'm sorry, I said. It's not you. I'm not there yet. No apologies needed, he replied gently. Take your time, Grace. Whenever you're ready, if you're ever ready, I'll still be here. I didn't take him up on that. He deserved someone who could give him their whole heart, not the pieces I had left. Day 180. 6 months after the wedding that never was, I finally moved into my own apartment. Small, on the east side, near the river, 1 bedroom with hardwood floors and big windows that let in morning light. It was mine. Just mine. No shared memories, no ghosts. Dad and Tyler helped me move in. We ordered pizza and sat on my new couch, the first piece of furniture I'd ever bought completely for myself, and Tyler raised his beer. To new beginnings, he said. To surviving, I replied. To my strong, beautiful daughter, who didn't let anyone break her. Dad added, his voice thick with emotion. We clinked our bottles together, and for the first time in 6 months, I felt something like peace. They say time heals all wounds. That's not quite true. Time doesn't heal. Time just gives you space to learn how to carry the pain differently. 1 year after the wedding, I was a different person. Not worse, not better. Just different. I'd cut my hair. Shoulder length now, instead of the long waves I'd had when I was with Michael. I'd gotten a small tattoo on my wrist. A single peony, for new beginnings, and the courage to stand tall even after being cut down. I'd thrown myself into work, taking extra shifts, volunteering for the hardest cases. The children I cared for reminded me what real strength looked like. Kids fighting cancer, enduring treatments that would break most adults, and still finding reasons to smile. Dr. Chen and I met every Tuesday. In our sessions, I'd unpack not just the betrayal, but the patterns that led me there. The need to be liked, the tendency to ignore red flags, the belief that being kind meant being accommodating, even when my boundaries were being violated. You can be kind and still protect yourself, Dr. Chen told me. Compassion doesn't require self-sacrifice. I was learning that, slowly. I'd also started writing. Nothing I intended to publish, just journaling, working through the complicated emotions that still surfaced at unexpected moments. The smell of Michael's cologne on a stranger in the grocery store, a couple's engagement announcement on Facebook, the sound of a baby crying in the hospital nursery. Each trigger got a little easier to bear. Cassidy and Derek had me over for dinner every Sunday. It became our ritual: good food, good wine, and honest conversation about the mess of being human. "You're doing really well," Cassidy said one Sunday in March, 9 months post-wedding. "You seem more like yourself." "Or maybe I'm learning who myself is without defining myself by who loves me," I replied. "That's very therapist of you," Derek teased gently. $75 an hour has to be good for something, I joked back. But it was true. I was rebuilding, not the life I'd planned, but a life that was authentically mine. I'd also reconnected with old friends I'd neglected during my relationship with Michael. Julia, from nursing school, who'd moved to Seattle but came back to visit. Carmen, my college roommate, who drove up from Eugene every few weeks for girls' weekends. They reminded me of who I'd been before Michael. Funny, adventurous, someone who stayed up late debating philosophy and planning spontaneous road trips. I wanted to be her again, or some version of her who'd been through fire and knew her own strength. 14 months after the wedding, I saw Vanessa for the first time since that day at the altar. I was at the farmer's market on a Saturday morning, buying tomatoes and fresh basil, when I turned and there she was, 20 feet away, a baby in a stroller in front of her. Our eyes met. Time stopped. The baby, a little girl with dark hair and Michael's eyes, couldn't have been more than 4 months old. Vanessa looked different, thinner, tired. Her hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail, and she wore no makeup. The polished, calculated woman I'd known was gone. In her place was someone who looked diminished. She started to push the stroller in the other direction, clearly trying to avoid me. I don't know what made me call out. Maybe it was curiosity. Maybe it was the need for closure. Maybe it was growth. "Vanessa," I said. She stopped, turned slowly. "Grace," she replied, her voice barely a whisper. I walked over, looked down at the baby, who was sleeping peacefully, her tiny hands curled into fists. "She's beautiful," I said, and I meant it. Vanessa's eyes filled with tears. "Grace, Don't," I interrupted. "I'm not here to rehash everything. I just wanted to say that I read your letter, and I understand that you're sorry. I even believe you're sorry." "I am," she said desperately. "Every day, I'm sorry. Every time I look at her, I think about what I took from you. What we took from you." I studied her face, saw the guilt etched into every line, the exhaustion, the loneliness. "How's Michael?" I asked. She looked away. He's working a lot. The move was hard. The baby is hard. Everything is hard." "Are you happy?" I asked. She was quiet for a long moment. "No," she finally admitted. "I thought I would be. I thought if we could just be together, everything would be perfect. But it's not. He resents me. I resent myself." And this beautiful little girl deserves better than two parents who destroyed other people to be together. I should have felt vindicated. I should have felt satisfaction that their relationship wasn't the fairy tale they'd hoped for. But all I felt was sad. For everyone. For the mess we'd all made. For the casualties of their choices. I hope you figure it out, I said, for her sake. Vanessa nodded, tears spilling down her cheeks. Are you okay? I've thought about you every day, worried about you. I'm okay, I said. Better than okay, actually. I'm learning to build a life that's mine, not defined by betrayal or revenge or bitterness. Just mine. I'm glad, she whispered. You deserved better than what we gave you. Yes, I agreed. I did, but I'm giving myself better now. I started to walk away, then turned back. Vanessa, I'm not going to forgive you. Maybe someday, but not now. But I'm not going to carry hate for you either. It's too heavy, and I'm done carrying things that don't serve me. She nodded, understanding. I walked away from her for the second time. But this time, it didn't feel like an ending. It felt like a release. 18 months after the wedding, I met someone. His name was James. He was a physical therapist at the hospital. Someone I'd worked with dozens of times but never really noticed until he asked if I wanted to grab coffee after a particularly tough shift. Just coffee, he'd said, seeing my hesitation. No pressure, no expectations, just two colleagues who could probably use a friend. We had coffee, then dinner, then a walk along the river. James was patient. When I told him about Michael and Vanessa and the wedding, he listened without judgment. That must have taken incredible strength, he said, to stand up there and tell the truth. Or incredible rage, I replied. Maybe both, he said with a slight smile. Nothing wrong with that. We took things slow. So slow that Cassidy teased me about moving at glacial speed. But slow felt right. Slow meant I could be sure of my feelings. Slow meant I could build trust gradually, instead of diving in head first like I had with Michael. James was different from Michael in every way that mattered. He was open about his feelings. He introduced me to his friends and family early. He was consistent. No mysterious late nights, no evasive answers, no gut feelings that something was off. When I had moments of panic, and I did, often, he gave me space. I'm not going anywhere, he'd say calmly. Take your time. I'll be here when you're ready. And he was. 2 years after the wedding that never was, James asked me to move in with him. We were having brunch at our favorite cafe when he brought it up. I know this might be too soon, he started. And if it is, just tell me. But I spend half my time at your place and you spend half your time at mine. And I was thinking, maybe we could just have one place. Together. My first instinct was panic. Moving in together had been the step before engagement with Michael. Moving in had been when I'd really let my guard down, really trusted completely. But James wasn't Michael. I need to think about it, I said honestly. Of course, he replied without missing a beat. Take all the time you need. I talked to Dr. Chen about it in our next session. What are you afraid of? She asked. Being wrong again, I admitted. Missing signs again. Getting blindsided again. And have you seen any signs with James that concern you? I thought about it, really thought about it. No, I said finally. He's been nothing but honest and consistent. Then maybe, Dr. Chen said gently, the question isn't whether you can trust him. It's whether you can trust yourself. That's what it came down to. Could I trust my own judgment again? I decided yes. I moved in with James 3 months later. We found a house together, a small craftsman with a garden and a porch swing. Nothing like the apartment I'd shared with Michael. This was ours, built on truth, built on respect, built on a foundation that had been tested and proven solid. 2.5 years after the wedding, I was having dinner at Dad and Patricia's house when Patricia brought up Vanessa. "She's back in Portland," Patricia said quietly. "She and Michael separated. She's living with her mother, raising the baby alone." I felt Tyler tense beside me, ready to defend me from any expectation of sympathy. "How is she?" I asked. Patricia looked surprised by the question. "Struggling, but she's going to therapy. She's working part-time. She's trying. And Michael?" "Still in San Francisco. He sees the baby once a month, pays child support. That's about it." I nodded, processing. "And how are you handling it?" Patricia's eyes filled with tears. "I love my daughter. I'll always love my daughter. But I'm so disappointed in her, Grace. In the choices she made. In the person she became." "She's still your daughter," I said. "That doesn't change." "You're very gracious," Patricia replied. "I'm not gracious," I corrected. "I'm just done letting their choices define my life. Vanessa has to live with what she did. So does Michael. That's their burden, not mine." 3 years after the wedding, James and I got engaged. Not with a grand public gesture, not with a surprise proposal in front of dozens of people. Just the two of us, on our porch swing, watching the sunset. "Marry me," he said simply. "Not because I need you, not because I can't imagine my life without you, but because I can imagine my life, and every version of it is better with you in it." I said yes. We had a small ceremony at a vineyard outside the city, 20 people, close friends and family. Tyler as my man of honor, making everyone laugh through their tears in his toast. Dad walking me down the aisle again, this time with joy that wasn't tinged with betrayal. No maid of honor, no bridesmaids, just James and me and the people who loved us. When Reverend Thomas, the same minister from the first wedding, asked if anyone objected, everyone laughed, including me. "I think we're good this time," I said, and we were. It's been 5 years now since the day I walked down an aisle toward a man who was betraying me. 5 years since I exposed the truth in front of 150 people. 5 years since that video went viral and made me a symbol, for a moment I never asked to symbolize. I'm 34 now. I've been married to James for 2 years. We have a daughter, Lily, who just turned 1. She has my eyes and her father's calm disposition and an infectious giggle that makes even hard days feel lighter. I still work at St. Vincent's Hospital. I still see Dr. Chen, though less frequently now, once a month instead of every week. I still have moments where the old pain surfaces sharp and unexpected. But mostly, I'm at peace. People still recognize me sometimes. "You're the bride from that video," they'll say, their voices hushed and curious. "The one who exposed her cheating fiancé?" I usually just smile and nod. I don't owe strangers my story beyond what they've already seen. But here, now, I want to tell you what I've learned. The lessons that didn't make it into that viral video. The wisdom that only comes from walking through fire and coming out the other side. First, trust your instincts. Those red flags I ignored, my gut knew. My intuition was screaming at me. But I'd been conditioned to be nice, to give people the benefit of the doubt, to not be that girlfriend who's suspicious and controlling. I silenced my own inner voice to keep the peace. Don't do that. Your instincts are there to protect you, not to make you paranoid. Second, betrayal says nothing about your worth and everything about someone else's character. For a long time, I asked myself what I'd done wrong. Was I not enough? Not interesting enough? Not beautiful enough? Not exciting enough? The answer is none of those things. I was enough. I am enough. Michael and Vanessa's choices were about their own weaknesses, their own selfishness, their own moral failings, not about anything lacking in me. Third, public exposure isn't for everyone, and that's okay. What I did at that altar worked for me in that moment. It gave me closure. It gave me power. It prevented them from controlling the narrative. But it's not the only way to handle betrayal. Some people need privacy to heal. Some people need to quietly walk away. Some people need confrontation behind closed doors. Whatever path you choose for your own healing is valid. Fourth, healing isn't linear. There were days, even years later, when I'd see a couple's engagement announcement and feel that sharp stab of old pain. Days when I'd remember how naive I'd been and feel embarrassed. Days when I'd wonder if I'd ever trust anyone completely again. Those days still come sometimes, but they're farther apart now, and they don't last as long. Healing is a spiral, not a straight line. You'll revisit old wounds. That doesn't mean you're failing. It means you're human. Fifth, you can forgive without forgetting, and you can heal without forgiving. I see people debate forgiveness all the time. You have to forgive to move on. Some say, never forgive, never forget. Others insist. The truth is somewhere in between. I released my anger toward Michael and Vanessa because carrying it was hurting me more than it was hurting them. But releasing anger doesn't mean I trust them or want them in my life. It just means I've stopped giving them power over my emotional state. Forgiveness is a personal choice, not a moral obligation. Sixth, build a life you love, not a life that's a reaction to pain. For a while after the wedding, I made choices based on avoiding anything that reminded me of Michael. I didn't watch certain movies. I didn't go to certain restaurants. I changed my entire routine to avoid memories. But that's just another way of letting someone control your life. Eventually, I had to reclaim those spaces. I had to build a life based on what I wanted, not what I was running from. Seventh, the right person will never make you question their loyalty. With James, there are no late-night mystery phone calls, no unexplained absences, no gut feelings that something's off. Not because I've learned to stop being suspicious, but because there's nothing suspicious to see. Real love is transparent. Real love is consistent. Real love doesn't require detective work. And finally, you are stronger than you think you are. When I stood at that altar and my entire future collapsed, I thought I'd collapse too. I thought the humiliation, the heartbreak, the betrayal would destroy me, but it didn't. I survived the worst day of my life. I rebuilt from nothing. I learned to trust again. I found love again. I created a life that's better than anything I lost. If I could do that, if I could walk through that fire and come out stronger, then I know you can survive whatever you're facing too. I think about my mother sometimes. She died before I met Michael, before any of this happened. I used to wonder what she would have thought about the wedding disaster. Would she have been proud of me for standing up for myself? Or disappointed that I'd made such a public spectacle? But I know now what she would have said. She would have reminded me that I'm the daughter of a woman who fought cancer with grace and courage, that I come from strong stock. That heartbreak is just another battle, and I was raised to fight. She would have been proud. Dad told me something a few months ago that stuck with me. We were sitting in his backyard, watching Lily play in the grass, and he said, "You know what I admire most about you? You didn't let what happened make you bitter. You could have become cynical, closed off, angry at the world. But you stayed kind. You stayed open. You just got more selective about who deserves that kindness. That's the person I've worked hard to become. Not someone who trusts blindly, but not someone who walls everyone out either. Someone who can be both soft and strong, both cautious and hopeful. As for Michael and Vanessa, I rarely think about them anymore. Occasionally, I'll hear updates through Patricia. Michael is apparently engaged to someone new in San Francisco. Vanessa is still single, still co-parenting, still working on herself in therapy. Their daughter, whose name I learned is Sophia, is 5 now. I don't wish them harm. I don't wish them happiness either. I just don't wish them anything. They're characters in a chapter of my life that's closed. What happens to them doesn't affect my story anymore. But I do hope Sophia has a good life. None of this was her fault. She didn't ask to be born from betrayal. I hope her parents have learned to be better for her sake. I hope she grows up surrounded by love, even if that love couldn't hold her parents together. So here's what I want you to know, if you're reading this or watching this or hearing my story secondhand. If you've been betrayed, you will survive. It won't feel like it at first. The pain will be overwhelming. The humiliation will be crushing. The anger will consume you. But one day, maybe not soon, but eventually, you'll wake up and realize you went 5 whole minutes without thinking about them, then an hour, then a day. And one day, you'll tell your story not with tears, but with strength. Not as a victim, but as a survivor. Not as someone broken, but as someone rebuilt. If you're currently standing where I stood 5 years ago, facing betrayal, facing heartbreak, facing a future that looks nothing like what you planned, please hear me. This is not the end of your story. This is just the plot twist before you become the hero. Walk away from people who don't value you. Speak your truth, whether that's publicly or privately. Lean on people who love you. Get therapy. Cry when you need to. Rage when you need to. But then, slowly, carefully, start building again. Build a life that belongs to you. Find people who choose you clearly and consistently. Trust your instincts. Know your worth. And never, ever settle for complicated when you deserve clear. I'm Grace. I was supposed to get married 5 years ago, but instead, I exposed my fiancé and stepsister's affair at the altar and walked away. Best decision I ever made. If my story resonated with you, I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Have you ever had to walk away from someone you thought you'd spend forever with? Have you ever had to choose yourself when it felt impossible? How did you rebuild? And if you're going through your own betrayal right now, please know you're not alone. We're all out here, those of us who've survived the unsurvivable. We're proof that you can too. Take care of yourselves. Be kind to yourselves. And remember, you deserve a love that's honest, consistent, and worth keeping. Thank you for listening to my story.